So, any questions are there? It can be about whatever you have heard, or it need not even be about that. If there are any other questions that you want to ask, you can ask. So, we'll go as long as people have questions. We can have this session. No questions? Yeah, go ahead. How to separate the I from what? Ah, yes, yes. Yeah, yeah, that will be that is an important thing. So, there is a mother. That was going to be the next point I was going to talk about, actually. Yeah. So, but I'll briefly say one is a son or a daughter, mother or father, and sister, brother. So many roles are there, friends. But then the role is peculiar. I'll talk about it now itself so that we can talk about other things tomorrow. The role is something which is very peculiar. Between the role and the person, there is no distance at all. Because, like in Rama Leela, we have this, during Navaratri, we have this story of Rama being elected. And then who is playing the part of Rama? The village iron smith is playing the role of Rama. So who is he? He's actually ironsmith. He makes all these shoes for the animals with the iron horseshoe, etc. And he repairs pots and pans and everything like this. But during these 10 days, he's playing the role of Ram. Everybody worships him. In fact, in India, everybody will fall at the feet. They will invoke Rama in the one who is dressed as Rama. They will all invoke Rama. And everybody does all these things. Then what? Then there is after the 10th day, when everything is over, he will not remove his clothes, let us say. He will continue to wear the costume of Rama with the crown and everything. Do you think people will still put up with his nonsense? No. They will say, you are a tardy blacksmith. You have not finished your work. And then just get out of this dress and do this. And so it's a peculiar relationship between the role and the person. Because there is no Rama really. That Rama role is entirely this person. The body of the quote-unquote Lord Rama in this particular play is this person. The mind of Lord Rama is this person. The senses of Lord Rama is this person. In fact, the whole Lord Rama is nothing but being embodied by this person. Rama is this person. The person is not Rama. That is what we have to say. And similarly, if the Swamiji's example of the actor, a very rich Hollywood actor, has to play the role of a beggar. Even as he's crying and saying, I don't have a stitch of clothes on me, I don't have anything, everything is gone, I'm in such a sad state. Even as he's complaining, what happens, He's actually not crying. He's thinking, oh, maybe I'll get Oscar this time. I'm really crying without glycerin. I'm pretending to do this so well. In fact, the body of the beggar is the body of the actor. The mind of the beggar is the mind of the actor. Senses of the beggar are the senses of the actor. In fact, the whole beggar is actor. But the actor is not the beggar. Actor can throw away the tattered clothes at the end of the shoot, and then go to his big mansion where in Beverly Hills, and then have a good life. That is what the actor can do. So this is the inner space. It's not an outer space for which one has to know oneself first. Oh, but Atma Jnanam seems far away. How to know myself? Know yourself as a devotee, because that is what one is foremost. One is a devotee. And that was my next point, my very next point here. Because you see, as you say, Bhagavan is the actor. Who will say? Only the Bhakta will say Bhagavan is the actor, not the self-made man. That's why I gave you that example. Self-made man will be very narcissistic and not really acknowledge anybody's help in their own upcoming upliftment. So therefore, this is the key here, is to develop that inner space. It can only be done through devotion and connecting to yourself. Before you understand yourself as Bhagavan, you first understand yourself as a devotee of Bhagavan. Oh, but isn't that Dvaita? As though it is, we can call it frontier of duality before you understand yourself as non-separate from Bhagavan. So you understand yourself as a devotee, because that is where you need to go next. That is exactly where you need to go, because the difficulties of life cannot be crossed without help. And where will you go to help? Where will you go for help? The same person that has, as it were, you think has put obstacles in the way in the form of karma, from her, him alone you will go for help. And that is why this devotion, it becomes an altar of surrender. Everything that I don't like, everything that I don't have, everything that I think I lack, I leave it at the foot of this altar. That is Bhagavan. That's why it's called altar, because it has the power to alter you by giving you emotional maturity. That is why it's called altar. It alters you. Once you supplicate and surrender to this truth, that I don't call all the shots, I don't call any of the shots. What do you mean all? I call none of the shots. So first I mint myself as a devotee. And then I am a devotee daughter, devotee son, devotee father, devotee mother, devotee brother, devotee sister. Then you see the role, the problems of the roles do not stick on to the person. The role is the person, but the person is not the role. This is what has to be totally and fully understood. And you have to practice this all the time. And how do you practice this? By granting people around you the full freedom to be who they are. Let them be who they are. No, but they are terrible. Let them be terrible. And you tell yourself, in my perception, they are terrible. I grant them the freedom to be terrible. And in fact, it's a win-win situation. They will wonder what happened to you. How come you are not controlling me? They are happy. And then you are happy because they are not under your skin. You are happy. And that is what is samatvam. This is samatvam. Equanimity means letting go of controlling situations, people, events, circumstances. This is a very sad way to live. The more you control, the more out of control everything is going to get. And so and then it's harder to know the difference between you and the role. So you let go. You let go. Give people the freedom to be who they are. then what happens is that you enjoy the role much more. That's why when you meet a stranger and you're meeting them for the first time or the second time, it is pleasant. Oh, they are nice. Oh, let's go for coffee. One coffee, wonderful. Second coffee, okay. Third coffee, what's wrong with you? This is our thing. Familiarity breeds contempt. And that's because it's not that familiarity breeds contempt. It is because one's expectations of the other person increase. One expects that the other person will do something for you. And when they don't do something, anger comes. So when you give them freedom to be who they are, you are free to be who you are without really needing to control the situations. So in this way, you grow out of the roles. You had a question?
Yes, I want to ask about the Sakshi.
Sakshi.
Yeah, you can elaborate and mostly how can we recognize it? Because whenever if you think that it is that, then it's probably not that, right? Because it's the mindlessness.
How to recognize?
How to recognize that this is a state of Sakshi.
How to recognize Sakshi and not the mind. Ah, yeah. So Sakshi means, you see, you start observing the mind. When you start observing the mind, who is the observer? You see, that is you. That is Sakshi. It is you may be, what is that? Sakshita happens because everything becomes evident to the eye. So the buddhi, the awareness, which is in connection to the awareness is in connection to the buddhi. The awareness is blessing the buddhi. The buddhi is recognizing itself as Sakshi and not as connected to the body, mind, sense complex. You understand? Yeah. It's that what in for lack of a better translation is called reflected consciousness. The buddhi is this chaitanya abhasa, and that is what is recognizing itself as the Sakshi. I'm not, I can observe the mind, therefore I'm not the mind. It's the buddhi which is calm and which is getting into because the Sakshita is also a role. Sakshi is a role. That is also a role. That is only in relation to something that is to be witnessed. Witness corresponds to that which is witnessed. Okay? And so when there is nothing to witness, all that is there is you and your own glory. You're not witnessing anything externally. You're not witnessing anything internally either. That is Sakshita. So that is the drop. Awareness in relation to its role as the observer in conjunction with the buddhi, because awareness, it doesn't have really, the awareness that has the as though role. It doesn't really observe anything. It doesn't do anything. So that awareness in connection to a lightened buddhi, an enlightened buddhi, is called Sakshi.
Is that what you are trying to do when you meditate?
First, you observe. Yeah. Yeah, you observe. Yes. And that you don't even need to see yourself as consciousness because it is self evident. Once you see yourself, okay, I'm not this body, I'm not this mind, I'm not the senses, I'm not my problems, I'm not my gains, I'm not my losses, immediately that consciousness is there. And you understand, I am the observer of all that, and the observer of all that is the Sakshi.
The example that's something you all gave is, it is always stuck with me. That is when you just open your eyes in the morning.
You just open your eyes?
That is when you open your eyes in the morning.
Yeah.
And before the download happens.
Yes.
You know you're there.
Right.
And then suddenly the download happens.
Yes.
Actually,
Yes. What day of the week is it? What do I need to do? All these things. Yes. That's what. That's why the Adi Shankara's Pratasmarana Stotram very, very important. Pratasmarami hridi samspuradatmatattvam Satchit Sukham Paramahamsagatim Turiyam Yatsvapna Sushuptamavaiti Nityam Tad Brahma Nishkalamaham Nacha Bhuta Sangha. This is the first, even the first stanza is very, very effective. Pratasmarami Hridi Samspurat Atma Tattvam. The first thing upon waking, I connect to myself as that presence which is awakening in the heart, which is alive in the heart.
Therefore, the reflected consciousness as the ego.
Yeah, no, it's not the ego. No, it's not the ego. It is the ego. Ego is slightly different. It is the one that says, "This is my body, my mind, my senses." That is the ego. Yeah. The one that takes care of being, identifies with the body, mind, sense complex. That is what wakes up along with you. So before that wakes up, this is what is told to do. Pratasmarami. In the morning, I reflect upon myself as that awareness without a second, which is available in the heart as I. And what is it? Satchit Sukham. It is Sat, it is Chit, it is Ananda, Sukha. Satchit Sukha Swarupa it is. And then it is Turiya. Turiya means what? It is neither the waker nor the sleeper, nor the one who is what? Dreamer. It is the truth of all three, without being any one of them. Let me finish this, then I will come to you.
Yeah.
2 more lines. Satchit Sukham Paramahamsa Gatim Turiyam. Paramahamsa Gati means it is the goal of all sannyasis to reach this. All enlightened people want to reach this. And then Yat Swapna Jagara Sushuptam Avaiti Nityam. That which knows the sleeper, that which knows the dreamer, that which knows the waker. That is what it is. So when you reflect on this before all the thoughts come, who am I, where am I, what do I need to do, all these rushing thoughts when they come, before that you reflect on this, then you know what happens? Then you know your day goes much better. The difference between the person and the roles is very, very clear. Can we turn this off? Yes.
Yeah.
Next question.
Exactly what is the meaning of chitta? Because when we say Satchit Sukham,
Yeah.
Chitta is consciousness.
Chit is consciousness.
Chit
Chit,
is
yeah.
consciousness.
Yes.
Then in the Shankaracharya is a reverse account. Manobuddhi Ahankara Chittani.
That is a different. That is so. One is chit, the other one is chittam.
Okay.
Chit means awareness. Chit means all knowledge, awareness. This is I. This is chit. Chittam means emotions.
Chitta means
Emotions. Chittam means emotions.
emotion. Okay.
Chittam means all kinds of emotions. Mano buddhi ahankara chittani naham. I'm not the emotions, I'm not the body, I'm not the sum total of the body, mind, sense complex. Very easy to get confused because they are very, very similar sounding words.
Yeah. Thank you. So there's no mention of memory at all.
Memory is there. Pratyabhijna comes in the Upanishad, it also comes in the Gita.
So that sentence.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
Chitta now.
Yeah.
So
Because Yeah, memory is there, but it is understood because the memory is part of the buddhi and manaha, because that's where it is stored. Memory is stored where? In there only. Yes, yes.
And it is not identifying each other. After all, he's describing
Yes,
who he is not. So
yes,
he's not
absolutely.
going into each table.
Yeah, no, but buddhi means memory. Buddhi means memory will be there. Buddhi means forgetting will be there. Buddhi means good thoughts will be there. Difficult thoughts will be there. Yeah.
Memory is the store also, like the generator of thoughts.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, memory, forgetting, etc. So, people are here. At this time, regularly, we have a Taittiriya Bhashya class. Some of the people are here. Welcome. This is a Bhagavad Gita retreat happening in India on the outskirts of Bangalore. Welcome. You can listen to the satsang. No problem. I had mentioned that we will not have class on Saturday, but I think people forgot. But that's for speaking of memory, but that is for a good reason. Yeah. So, no problem. You can join in the satsang. No problem at all. Yeah. So, any other questions?
Then
Second kind of into and Chit,
Ah,
Arabic calls it as Chit Shakti.
no,
Consciousness
yeah, Chit Shakti. Chit Shakti, yeah.
Shakti,
Yeah.
consciousness force.
Yeah.
When he said Chit Ananda, they that Chit, he calls it as consciousness force.
No, even in the Lalita Sahasranama, it comes Chit Shakti Chetana Rupa. Chit Shakti is that Chit, that Shakti which associated with which that Brahman, just Chit is not Bhagavan. Chit associated with Shakti is Bhagavan. That is why it is there. Somebody else had a question? Yes. Or with Vishnu. Yeah. Or, but usually with Shiva, especially in South India. Yeah. Issue?
is there necessity to qualify that as able to people, or does it matter?
Because if we understand the Vyutpatti, if you understand the origin, the grammatical, then it becomes very clear. Issue palane. And then vara, santata bhave varach. Varach means, it is got a certain kind of a santata bhava means that which is unchangingly so forever and in all situations the same. There is a sutra, santata bhave varach. So there are many words which have this varach suffix pratyaya. Like stha plus varach, sthavara. What does sthavara means? Unmoving, like tree, mountain. Bhasra, what is that? Sun, which we haven't seen today. Yeah, Bhasvara. And that vara means always shining, always not moving, always shining, always not moving. Nashvara, what's that? Always subject to destruction, like the body, Nashvara. Ishvara, always the one who protects, the one who nourishes. Then if you take it like that, yeah, but I think it is connected. Sometimes people take it for the Ishtadeva. Yeah, and that's okay. It's fine.
Where they are in there.
Or sometimes it's just the two are the same, one and the same. It's okay. Yeah.
You don't have names and forms, you get according to names and forms, like how we say, you always relate them or yourself with Shiva or Vishnu or somebody else.
Yeah.
And it creates differences in our close ones itself. So if it get a name, how to get means keep ourselves out of that names and forms. And whatever names and forms others are.
How to keep yourself away from names and forms? All names and forms? Oh, names and forms of Bhagavan. Yeah. Why do you want to keep outside the names and forms?
In Vyavahara, we use names
Yes, yes.
for ourselves.
For your own growth. Yeah. 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 To stick to Advaita, one mantra we can borrow from the Kenopanishad and chant it. Tadeva Brahmatvam Vidhi Nedam Yadidam Upasate. Know only that to be Brahman, which is the object of worship. The object of worship is not Brahman. Yeah. Brahman is, it is because you may say, okay, there is prana pratishtha done. It is wonderful. It is Bhagavan. It is a form of Bhagavan. But the Kenopanishad says there is more to grow. This is fine. This is wonderful. This is at the level of karma yoga. It is very, very wonderful. But there is a little more growing to do when one is ready. If one is ready. And that is to, you don't disrespect the temple. You don't, say, I don't want this or whatever. That's not what it is. Because, you see, either you do namaskara to the whole universe or you do namaskara to no one. This is a very, very interesting thing. Otherwise, you see everything as Bhagavan. That is the whole idea, isn't it? So, after gaining Atma Jnanam, what do? You see everything as Bhagavan, Bhagavan, Bhagavan. This is Bhagavan, that is Bhagavan, up is Bhagavan, down is Bhagavan. You see Bhagavan, Bhagavan, Bhagavan. Everywhere you Bhagavanize the whole universe. Ishvarize the universe. And so you then whenever you see a tree, you do Sashtanga Namaskara. Whenever you see a person, you do Sashtanga Namaskara. Whatever you see is Bhagavan. So that can get very tiring. So you cognitively think this is what is Bhagavan. This is what is Bhagavan. And so this, in the Jivan Mukti Viveka, which we studied in Sailorsburg, there it says very, very nicely that, this is why the sannyasi, the person of knowledge, does not do namaskara to anything or anybody. Why? Because this is, otherwise you have to keep doing namaskara to everything. Yeah. Poor thing will get very tired afterwards and lose weight. So this way, this is the mantra, Tadeva Brahmatvam Vidhi. Just to see that form as one of the many forms. All of them are worship worthy because it's all Ishvara.
I think we will change my life. Because we grow as we grow.
As we grow,
We process all deities, different deities.
yes.
Kali or Ganesha or Shiva or
Right.
Vishnu, Muruga, and different people, means our own relatives or our own parents, they tell us different stories. We grow.
Yes.
But when we come to Advaita, for me, it stayed for a long time and a hindrance for me.
Yes.
Okay, means what is the right thing? Means different way. Everything is one. And in our photo room also we keep all the photos.
Yes.
Means,
Yeah. But there is no need to be averse to many because Ishvara Srishti is like that. We don't have to have an aversion. Why so many varieties of mango? So at the beginning of the season, we have certain varieties. Now we have that other varieties that are coming, Langda and something else. And then, we enjoy all of them indiscriminately. We don't have a problem. And we have so many kinds of coconuts, so many kinds of mangoes, so many kinds of flowers. And when we see Ishvara in all of them, then you can admire Ishvara Srishti without getting frustrated. That is the next place to go. Because otherwise you get frustrated. Like, why so many things? Why so many varieties? And why are we having so many dishes in our food? So many kinds of things, multi-course.
Useful things. We don't see usefulness of God.
Yes.
Especially
Yes.
it is not directly useful
Right.
in our life.
Right.
Unless we face the problem,
Right.
book of baby,
Right.
and it happens as Buddha only protect me, or Sai Baba only protect me. That kind of thing we generate in our mind, but that doesn't go easily.
That doesn't go easily. No, no.
Yes, so far, is it because we are, as we are growing, as we are emotionally growing, we have to go beyond that, as you said. So it is one step in the line, it's maybe gradually,
Yes.
something.
Yes, yes.
And so if we accept that in ourselves or in other people,
Yeah.
I think part of what you're saying, the frustration we get that other people don't see what you are doing.
Yes.
That you are going beyond this particular ability of
Yes.
this particular puja.
Yes.
As Swamiji always said, you just invoke when you're doing the puja, you're just it is an opportunity to invoke the devotee in yourself.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter
What the form is. Yes. So we are having a very, I'm telling these people because online, because they may not know what we are talking about, because everything they may not be able to hear. There's an interesting discussion. Can the Ishta Devata, or the desire to worship and connect to a particular name and form, which is so much encouraged by the tradition, when and how does it, how could it become a hindrance in the pursuit of Advaita? The Kenopanishad will definitely tell you it's a hindrance. Yeah, either learn to understand all forms as equally worshipful, or this. But the thing is, if you are, if you have Atma Jnanam, you can still have, these the Shankaracharyas in every ashram, devatas are there, and they worship from a place of knowledge. You can still worship, but from a place of knowledge, knowing that this is one form, and it is your relation to that is shifting, and having the faith that your relationship is shifting. And that hindrance also can be overcome by asking the same Ishtadevata for help to transcend it. Yeah.
Or the second ability of sensing.
Yeah, it's all about attitude.
So, if I the simple order, the person knows they are so clear, it's for, he knows this, sorry.
Because otherwise you don't worship. Worship means there should be attributes. Sagudam chet dhyayeta. Nirgunam chet jnayeta. Yeah. So if it is Sagunam Brahma, if we are talking of Bhagavan, you can't worship without form. What are you going to worship? You say hello, that's already a form. You offer a flower, that's a form. You bow down, that's a form. You do namaskara, upachara, that's still a form. So you can't really worship without forms.
So, for a long time, it's not devotion on this side of the system.
Everything is necessary. Everything is necessary. Everything is necessary, and then it drops away.
We are not there, and we know that. So we need a form. So that we can, when we closer, when we think of Bhagwan, we need some form. Otherwise, our mind will just
Very interesting discussion. How to use the form to reach the formless. Very nice. Yeah. Excellent.
I don't know, question.
Yes.
Will you comment little bit about the self-referential quality of consciousness?
Self-referential quality of consciousness. Okay.
Because the ATVT,
Yes.
it is based upon the thing that whatever we can perceive, we are not that.
Yeah.
Okay, so it precludes consciousness referring to itself, because we know that consciousness can be aware of itself.
Yes, it is aware of itself.
Ah.
It does not preclude. I'll tell you why. I mean, it's a good.
Consciousness then can become subject as well as object.
Yes, yes. But it doesn't preclude. I'll tell you why. Because it's a very good question you have asked. So how can how does the pedagogy, this is the question. Very nice question. Intelligent question. So how does the pedagogical technique of na iti, na iti, na iti, neti, neti, that is there deployed in Vedanta Shastra, how does that how does that relate to the subject object categories? And so if consciousness is the subject, then you are saying neti, neti, neti. And what about the objects? And how can we understand consciousness, awareness to be self-referential? That is your question. So, neti, neti is deployed at one level. It's very interesting where it is deployed. Neti, neti is deployed at the level of misidentification. Misidentification with the body, misidentification with the mind, and the misidentification with the awareness. That is where it is. So it's a series of misidentifications that are removed. No, manaha na aham, buddhihi na aham, ahankarah na aham. This is what it is. So, chittani, chittam na aham. I'm not this, I'm not this, I'm not this. And this is again a step along the way. This is not the ultimate teaching. This is an important pedagogical tool because the I is mixed up in the not I. The Atma is mixed up in the Anatma. And so, some kind of a separation, you have to begin somewhere with a certain kind of a separation. You have to start somewhere. And you have to go somewhere. And so, therefore, you start by saying, Dvauhi padarthau atma anatmano. Only two things in the world, I and not I. Body, not I. Mind, not I. Senses, not I. But this is just Vedanta 101. Then later on, you say that whatever you have said as anatma, that is also nothing but atma because it's everything is consciousness. You go there later. Because in the beginning, if you said that already there is a jumble between Atma and Anatma, so first you separate in order to bring together. You separate as a tactical pedagogical tool. So you say this is awareness. I am awareness. This is the object of awareness. And then later on, what? That object is non-separate from the subject. And because it is all one. And then so therefore the subject object, that which appears as the subject and that which appears as the object without either being subject or object, that is that awareness. So the object takes on the form of the awareness takes on, as it were, lends its presence to give birth to the subject. I am I am the observer, to give birth to the observer. And then it again morphs to give birth to that which is observed. And then it morphs again to be the means of knowledge which connects the observer and the observed without being either the observer or the observed or the means of observation, eyes, ears, etc. It lends its presence to do everything without becoming any one thing. And that is why it is always self-referential. It can never be anything but self-referential because it is self-evident, it is self-luminous, and it is self-referential. I hope that helped. Any other questions? Online also you can ask. No other questions? Yes, बोलिए.
Krishna,
Krishna didn't choose. Ah, that is very important question.
If we take conversation pattern, really,
Yes.
then because was there time to conversation pattern?
Yeah, why not? Maybe there were other smaller battles taking place, and in between, they had this conversation. And so you're actually asking two questions. Why Krishna chose Arjuna to teach? Krishna did not choose Arjuna. Arjuna chose Krishna. Krishna had been an uncle. Krishna had been like a friendly presence. All the various aspects of their relationships comes out in chapter 11 when he is so frightened of his wits. And he keeps on doing pradakshina of Lord Krishna and asking for forgiveness. Ahara nidra shayana bhojaneshu. While eating, sleeping, all these things, I might have hit you. I catapult, when I was young, I threw something at you. And then, we climbed mango trees of the neighbors together to steal some mangoes. And I pushed you off the tree and you fell into the lake. Please, Kshamaswa, please forgive me. I didn't know who you were. So he chose. And up till then, Krishna was like an uncle, some mentor, friend, Shubha Chintaka, some well wisher, Suhrit. But then at the beginning of chapter 2, he says, Shishyaste aham. He does not say, will you please take me as a disciple? He says, I am your disciple. I am your disciple. There is a certain entitlement there. I am your disciple and please teach me. So the student has to choose. So, the teacher should not say, come to me. In fact, if anybody does that, please run away as far as you can from them. That would be my thing. And you had a second question. Should we take the Bhagavad Gita as real? And is it really possible to have a teaching in the middle of a battlefield? Why not? Right now itself is a battlefield. In every heart, there is a battlefield raging at all times. Right now, we forget the heart. Outside also, the what's that? The ex Prime Minister of Japan getting murdered, assassinated in broad daylight. And this Ukraine-Russia war, I don't know when it's going to end. Nobody does either. And it's all a battlefield. Something is happening, inflation, somewhere recession, somewhere, and this COVID-19 has become COVID-20, COVID-21, COVID-22. How long it will go? Nobody knows. Right now also is a battlefield. Anytime is a battlefield. The battlefield has to be taken metaphorically. And is it possible in the Kurukshetra they had that? Why not? Possible. Maybe all the other people also came and sat down and listened because it was just so wonderful. Lord Krishna's teaching is wonderful. They all sat down with their bows and arrows and listened.
And they used to stop at nightfall.
Yeah, they used to stop at nightfall. What? Say that again.
How it can is that it is not because now there are 500. He became a Sarathya.
That's again because Arjuna asked. Arjuna asked. You don't know the story of how he became the Sarathi? Very interesting story. Both Duryodhana and Arjuna go to him before the war. This is in the Mahabharata. And Duryodhana wants the army. And Arjuna wants. He says, you just be with me. That's what he said. He had a special relationship with Krishna. He invoked him. Krishna didn't say, I choose you. That we have to get out of the head. Yeah.
Normally, it said that Dharma was already an Atmajnani, and Bhima was a ferocious person. He was very powerful.
We say all those things. But really,
Arjuna is a
yeah.
normal intelligence.
Yes, Arjuna,
Ready for this jnana.
Arjuna is seen as an adhikari,
I mean,
as a moksha adhikari
moksha.
for us. And so it's not that Krishna chose. He chose, he said, please be with me. He said, please be my teacher. I am your disciple. And so that is what it is. Here is one question from the online. Is Aham Spurana the same as awareness of silence? How do you identify it as different from the I thought? Well, you can't, because it is in the form of a thought. That I thought, the truth and the content of the I thought is the awareness. That is what it is. The content of the I thought, that which is the truth of the I thought, is awareness. So that is what is Aham Spurana. I know I am. That is Aham Spurana. Whenever you say I am and I know I am, that is Aham Spurana. Good question.
Ishavasya Upanishad. Sarvam Kalvitam Bhagavan. Yatkinchit Jagat Jagat. I didn't get the meaning of that second part.
Yeah, whatever is there in the universe, that's all it means. Yat kinchit jagatvyam jagat. Whatever is there, which is part of this universe, is guided by the presence of the Lord. Isha vasyam idam sarvam.
Comes to the first part. Sarvam Kalvitam Brahman. Everything, is Brahma.
No, Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma is in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. It's not in this Upanishad. Ishavasya Upanishad starts with the Ishavasyamidagam Sarvam Yatkinchit Jagatyam Jagat. That is somewhere else. Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma is in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah.
Eventually became something else.
Of course, definitely. Yeah, but he had to hear the Bhagavad Gita all over again. He, after the Mahabharata war, he went to Lord Krishna and said, in the din of the battlefield, I couldn't hear properly. I missed a lot of things. Please teach me again. There is one Uttara Gita. Poor Lord Krishna taught all over again. Yeah. I don't know what it is. One of Anugita. Anugita. Yeah. So that is what he taught.
How important is it in our life?
Role of live guru as opposed to a dead guru. Yeah, this is a good question. What is the role of a live guru? Well, there is something to it in the sense that the knowledge is always in the form of a transmission, and the transmission is alive. And so there is something to say about that transmission, because in that transmission one is in that flow. When one exposes oneself to the flow, one can be transformed. Because you see, the relationship to the teacher is not different from a relationship to a doctor or a therapist. When you want to choose a doctor, especially a surgeon, for some kind of a excising of a tumor, as you have a tumor that doesn't belong, somebody has a tumor that doesn't belong, that needs to be out. Then you Google the surgeon, you find out their success rate. Oh, in a 30-year practice, only 2 fellows have died. You tell yourself, this is a good success rate. And then you go to the surgeon, correct? Once you choose the surgeon, then you have full shraddha in the surgeon. Why? Because you are paying money for the operation. And you have asked and you have satisfied yourself that this is the best person for me, or this is the best person in the city where I live. Whatever it is, you have told yourself that. So, in other words, the surgeon becomes important to you, and the surgeon is good for you as long as you validate the surgeon. Really. So, as long as you validate the surgeon, or the therapist, the therapy works. Therapy is a better example. So the therapy works as long as you validate the therapist. If you start to question the therapist, why are they doing this? What are they making me do? And if you start to question the surgeon, are you cutting? That's why first they anesthetize you. They don't want your input. They don't want you to say, are you cutting in the right place? Is this the correct scalpel? All this they don't want. So simply here also, with regard to this knowledge, there is some way in which you are able to learn as long as you validate the teacher. Validate the teacher means have Shraddha in the teacher. So when you have Shraddha in the teacher, then the life teacher really functions very well. Because because your own validation comes back to you in the form of an effective transmission. That is not a small thing. It's a huge thing. That validation which you're giving the teacher comes back to you in the form of the knowledge. So this is what it is. But if the teacher you cannot relate to, then you can be with the teacher for 100 years, or if you don't have Shraddha, that is the relationship to the teacher. If you don't have Shraddha, then what will happen? Nothing will happen. Yes. Yeah, that's a horrible story. Terrible story. Very bad story. Sad story.
So some people they do
Yes, Swamiji, there are many people who say that we put service.
Yeah. And tell them, if some people say we have studied all by ourselves, you tell them that is wonderful. Please keep the knowledge to yourself. Don't give it to me. Yes. Asampradaya with murkhavat upekshaniya. The one who does not have a sampradaya, does not relate to a sound lineage, must be upekshaniya means must be kept aside, must be ignored, must be put down, must not be encouraged as what? As a fool, murkhavat. Adi Shankara says this in one of the bhashyas. Yeah.
Because this is something that that's
Yeah, this is what it is. So one is asampradaya with, and then the other one is the self-study person. The self-study person also Adi Shankara has said something. Panditopi shastranveshanam swatantrena na kuryat. Even if you are a pandit, don't start looking into the shastra on your own. That is what is there. So there are two more questions here. One, can you please explain how the invisible good adrishtam cancels out the unfavorable adrishtam? Yeah, it's a very nice question. That's just like your corona vaccines. That's all it is. It neutralizes it neutralizes the whatever the virus, whatever it is, any vaccine neutralizes this. And then it gives you a certain immunity to that. So, adrishtam means either papa or punya. It's adrishta, unseen, invisible. The results of karma, as we have spoken earlier, they are invisible. So the invisible karma, which has, the visible karma, which has invisible results, you don't know. Okay? You don't know when they are going to manifest. So you take the opportunity to pray. So when you pray, then you are creating new adrishtam. You're creating new adrishtam, this time only punya. Why? Because instead of praying, you could be robbing a bank. But you're not. You're doing good karma. So prayer is a good karma. So that good karma releases adrishtam. And that adrishtam cancels out the adrishtam that is yet to manifest or is manifesting in your life in the form of sickness, manastapa, conflict, fear, etc. If the prarabdha is not too strong, it can neutralize it completely. Or if the prarabdha is prabala prarabdha, strong prarabdha, it neutralizes it somewhat. So that is how it is.
that's the what help to neutralize specific,
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. You can ask.
like, illness.
Yes, and even in the illness, there is specific illnesses. Amazing. The Atharva Veda is full of such prayers. Specific illnesses connected to skin, connected to liver, connected to pancreas. And we see there are so many things, in all over India, there is Mari Amma shrine. That's a specific illness. Any kind of, pox, chicken pox, small pox, even now monkey pox you can add. You go to Mari Amman temple. And there the worship is not completely done because you don't want to invoke her. You just have to say, please bless me enough to stay away from me. That is your blessing to me. And so they won't do 3 times Arati. They will do 2.5 times and then just keep it quickly if you have observed. Very, very nice. And so then there is one, somewhere I heard, I think in Telangana somewhere there is AIDS Amma temple. New. So this is the beauty of the tradition. You can have so many iterations of Bhagavan because the prayer can be directed towards that. We have a very sophisticated understanding of prayer and Ishvara. What's the difference between Prarabdha and Prabala Prarabdha? Prabala Prarabdha means strong Prarabdha. Yeah. Strong Prarabdha. When the Prarabdha is very, very strong, it is called Prabala Prarabdha. When it's ordinary Prarabdha, like mosquito bite, etc., it is simple Prarabdha. I think I missed something here. Is it right that one can read additional commentaries on the class subjects? Well, if you want, you can read, but right now we are studying a lot, so it's okay. You need not read right now. You can just listen. Is the thoughtless state a requisite ingredient, although transient, in the pursuit of self knowledge? One more question. No, it is not requisite, but it helps. It helps to know because one is always with the thoughts. It helps to know that I'm not the sum total of my thoughts. It's not that if you don't have a thoughtless state, you won't have moksha. It's not like that. Because the thoughtless state is not moksha. Because otherwise you will, then whenever there is a thought, you should say, I am out of moksha. Okay, I am now in moksha. As soon as I recognize I am in moksha, I am out of moksha. In moksha, out of moksha. It's very inconvenient. So therefore, the thoughtless state helps because it shows you very, very clearly, it demonstrates you are not the sum total of your thoughts. That is what it does. Any other questions? Yes.
That's about the kirtans.
Kirtan.
So it says, for example, Swami Shivananda said that this is the easiest way to take that.
Yes.
And also the Srimata Bhagavan talks about
Yeah. Bhakti.
about
Yes.
that can even be the way. So I'm just wondering how it goes with the fact that we know that we have the right knowledge.
Yeah. You see, the thing is this. It depends on what you mean by attaining God. See? So, attaining God is happening all the time. And so, in Kirtan, there is an obfuscation between the singer and the chanter and the object of the chanting. And what is that object of the chanting? The object of the chanting is Bhagavan. So that's why the bhajan and kirtan are so immersive in nature. The subject object difference goes away. For how long? For as long as the bhajan is there, it may be another hour afterwards if one is lucky. But then after that, it will come back again. So if by attaining God is meant that subject object obfuscation, which leads one to then be purified of one's ragadveshas and pursue the knowledge, then it's as good as attaining God. You can look at it that way. It is the easiest way because music everybody relates to and everybody doesn't, want to sit and listen all the time. And because that emotional maturity is not there, they just want immediate, what should I say, immediate dispersal of the pain, etc. And so the bhakti becomes a very important component and a readiness for knowledge. In the Bodhisara, it is said for the one who has bhakti, Moksha Dwari Lelayate. Moksha dances at the door when you are doing bhakti inside because the preparation is complete. And then that bhakti itself leads you to knowledge. That is the idea. One more question online. When jivas have tamas and rajas, how does Ishvara, the composite of all that exists, becomes Shuddha Sattva? You see, there you have your answer in this phrase, which is in parenthesis, the composite of all that exists. Jiva is not the composite of all that exists. Everything that exists is non-separate from, Ishvara is not the composite of all that exists. Otherwise, if 10 people are having a migraine, Ishvara will have 10 migraines, migraine to the power of 10. Thankfully, that doesn't happen. So, Ishvara is not the composite of all that exists. Ishvara is the truth of all that exists, the transcendental truth of all that exists. All that exists is non-separate from Ishvara by what we have studied. And then what? Then the Ishvara is separate from all that exists. Ishvara is Ishvara. Everything is Ishvara. So therefore, that is why it is Shuddha, Nitya, Buddha, Mukta. And that is what you are also. And when this is understood, that is what it is called Mahavakya. This is the message of oneness. Anything else? Shall we close? Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhaved, Asato Ma Sadgamaya, Soma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritangamaya, Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate, Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. One last minute question came. Get crashing question. What is that? The dharma of the son is to take care of the mother as long as she may live in the body. What happens if the mother outlives the son, or the son wants to pursue the path of knowledge? In both cases, the mother will be taken care of by somebody else. That's all we have to see. Yeah. Of course, if the mother outlives the son cannot do anything about it. But if the son wants to pursue the path of knowledge, there are many ways of studying. We are looking at karma yoga. We are looking at this thing. The son need not, if that is the only way to go, the son need not become a sannyasi immediately. Can be a karma yogi and later on take sannyasa. That is a possibility. Om Tat Sat.